I never imagined a concubine could rise to power, transforming China's fate forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension, whispers of betrayal swirling like smoke in a dimly lit room. My heart raced, each beat echoing a haunting premonition. They say power corrupts, but what if power is born from the ashes of desperation? There I stood, a mere shadow in the grand halls of the palace, barely acknowledged by the emperor. Yet here I was, watching the fate of a nation hinge on the flicker of a candle flame. I didn't choose this life. My name was lost among the rows of nameless faces, but my eyes held a story of longing, fear, and an unquenchable fire. The palace loomed around me, cold and indifferent. Opulent silk draped the walls, while the scent of jasmine tickled my senses. Each corridor echoed with the footfalls of those in power, their laughter ringing hollow, striking a chord of bitterness deep within my chest. I could feel their disdain, the way their gazes flicked past me, as if I were invisible. Yet I could hear the murmurs, the secrets spilling like wine onto the marble floors. They believed me to be no Thinga concubine, a possession. But in truth, I held the key to their undoing. That I and the stillness of the night, I gathered my courage, trembling hands clutching tightly to the fragile pieces of my fate. I had learned the art of strategy, observed the weaknesses hidden beneath layers of gold and silk. My heart pounded with desire for change, to rise above the constraints that shackled me. A flicker of hope grew stronger, igniting a rebellion deep within me. And then came the whispers of a plot, treason nestled among the lush tapestries. Names were tossed like poisoned fruit, leaving my mind racing with dread. A plan was being forged, one that could either propel me to greatness or plunge us all into darkness. My heart thudded as I pieced together the fragments of a conspiracy, the realization washing over me like cold water. They underestimated me, and I was prepared to strike back from the shadows. But as I leaned closer to the truth, a voice echoed from behind, a cold, haunting familiar voice. You shouldn't have come here. My blood turned to ice, eyes wide as the figure emerged from the darkness. It was someone I never expected, someone I thought I could trust. My breath hitched as silence swallowed the space between us. The pieces of my world began to unravel, reality twisting like vines around my throat. What now? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The night draped itself in shadows, thick and suffocating, each heartbeat a reminder of the looming danger of betrayal. Standing frozen, my pulse thundered in my ears as I confronted the one I had once deemed an ally. His face, familiar yet foreign, carved with the sharpness of secrets buried deep. Yuan, I whispered, barely capable of voicing the name that had once brought me comfort but now bore the weight of impending doom. His eyes, those once warm pools that held promises of friendship, were now cold and calculative. You shouldn't have come here, he repeated, but now there was something else beneath the surface of his voice, a hint of regret or perhaps fear for my impending demise. That I had to, I replied, my voice trembling, lips quivering at the edges. The momentum of my newfound resolve came crashing against the harsh reality of the palace's ruthlessness. There's a plot, Yuan. Against the emperor, against all of us. I know the name. Stop, he interjected, his tone a sharp knife that sliced through the fragile air. You don't know what you're risking by delving deeper. His gaze flickered to the ornate lanterns above us, shadows dancing nervously against the elegant silk, as if they too sensed the danger that lay in our exchange. They're using you, Yuan. You have to believe me. My heart raced, desperate for his faith but bracing for the weight of his rejection. This could all spiral into catastrophe. We can do something about it together. Whispers of loyalty and distrust twisted like smoke around us, obscuring our connection even further. He took a step back, the divide growing with each passing moment. A concubine thinking she can play in the arena of kings and traitors? He smirked, the edge of his mouth curling mockingly, but there was an underlying pain that pierced through the bravado. You have to leave this place. For a moment, a flicker of warmth ignited within the depths of my heart. Yuan's hesitation hinted that perhaps he still cared. Right then, a profound sadness swept over me. I saw how the wild flame within me could threaten all the delicate balancing acts around us. I was never just a concubine. I want to rise, Yuan. Not just for myself, but for China. For the people who suffer in silence. As the echoes of my plea hung in the air, a sudden commotion blurred our fragile moment of connection. The sound of hurried footsteps reverberated from the direction of the corridor. Panic rose within me. Needed to act, but how? Listen, Yuan said, his voice dropping to a whisper, urgency laced with fear. If you want to survive this, you need to find the right allies. You can't trust the ones who smile at you in the daylight. They will eat you alive when darkness falls. With that, he glanced over his shoulder, weighing the risks behind him before turning back to me. Meet me by the Eastern Garden at dawn. There are those who might still support you, but you must be ready to fight. That I took a tentative step forward, feeling the warmth of hope surge within me, but hesitation clawed at the edges of my resolve. Yuan, wait, I called after him, but he disappeared into the shadows, leaving me alone with my swirling thoughts. Dawn was too far away, the night stretched endlessly, filled with a cacophony of potential threats looming around every corner. Yet there was still something stirring inside, a glimmer of possibility. As I wandered through the dark halls, contemplating my next move, I stumbled upon a small alcove illuminated by the soft light of the moon filtering through ornate lattice windows. Inside, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A small child, no older than 6, sat curled against the cold marble wall, eyes glistening with tears. Are you lost? I knelt before him, instinctively feeling that if I could ease his pain, perhaps I could salvage a piece of my own heart. That he sniffed, shaking his head. I'm scared. They don't want me here. They say I should go back to the village. His small hands gripped the fabric of his tunic tightly, revealing how he too was ensnared by the cruel politics of power. You don't have to be scared, I said softly, wiping the tears from his cheeks with my sleeve. You are safe here with me. In that moment, I was reminded that even in a palace built on betrayal, kindness still existed. It twinkled like stars against the backdrop of a dark sky. Giving him a small smile, I whispered, maybe together we can find a way to change things. Just as a spark of hope reignited, a sharp knock shattered the sanctuary of our moment. The child's eyes widened in fear, and I could feel the adrenaline course through my veins. I had no illusion of the stakes at hand. As I turned my back to the door, determination settled within, solidifying my resolve. Whatever was coming, I would face it head-on. With one last glance back at the child's fearful face, I whispered a promise, a vow I'd make to myself in a world that sought to break me. I will find a way. But moments later, a figure burst through the door. Breathing heavily, his dark cloak swirling around him like a storm approaching, he carried a message that shattered the fragile cocoon in which I had wrapped myself. You must come at once. It's an emergency. The Emperor has fallen ill and there's talk of treachery. The floor beneath me felt as though it was shifting, the ground unstable. My heart raced again, not just with fear but with a deep-seated realization. The chess game had begun, and the pieces were no longer resting quietly. As the words settled heavily in the air, the gravity of the moment enveloped me like a thick fog. The Emperor, our anchor, the solid rock in a tumultuous sea, was ill. Treachery loomed like a shadow at the edges of this grand palace, and I felt the vast chasm of reality opening beneath me. The messenger, a guard I recognized vaguely, held my gaze urgently, his eyes wide with unspoken fears. Your presence is required in the Great Hall at once. They are deliberating over the course of action. His voice trembled, revealing the depth of panic within the palace walls. What do you mean deliberating? I asked, struggling to wrap my mind around the implications. Silence was never comforting in the corridors of power. It always spoke of wild currents ready to erupt. Is it serious? With a sharp nod, he motioned for me to follow. You must come now. As I hurried through the hallways, the weight of dread pounded in rhythm with my hurried footsteps. Each door I passed felt like a silent witness to the suffering and betrayal that seemed to intertwine with every thread of our lives. The faces of the courtiers echoed in my mind, smiles that hid daggers, formal bows that concealed ulterior motives. I felt the walls closing in, thick with political conspiracies yet to be unveiled. The great hall's imposing doors loomed before me, etched with the stories of 1,000 decisions made by those driven by greed and ambition. As I stepped through, I was greeted by a cacophony of voices, each clashing with their opinions and fears. The Emperor's council, a disarray of noble faces, attended to the matter of illness with an unsettling urgency. My heart clenched. I was a mere concubine, yet here I stood, trapped in the web of their machinations. That I and the center of the tumult stood Minister Jiang, his features carved with indignation and concern. He caught sight of me, and his face shifted from surprise to scrutiny. "What does she have to offer?" he boomed over the crowd, mocking my presence. Can a woman steeped in whispers truly understand the fate of the empire? A whisper can carry the weight of an army. "Minister," I found myself responding, an unexpected fire igniting in my chest. "I might be a concubine, but I am not powerless. The people are restless, their voices lost within these walls. The emperor's health is not merely a matter of personal concern, it reverberates through every village, every heart. An uneasy murmur spread through the gathering. I looked across the room, searching for allies in the sea of faces, clinging to the fleeting glimmer of hope I had felt flowing through me as I soothed the child. But here I was, faced with the unyielding barriers that tradition and circumstance had erected. "You dare question my authority?" Minister Jiang snapped, a dangerous glint in his eyes. Inwardly, I steadied myself, remembering the path of responsibility that lay in my resolve. "If you truly seek to contribute, then pray tell, what do you propose we do in the wake of this crisis?" I opened my mouth, words tumbling out, not entirely formed yet rapidly turning into a plan. "We could rally support from the provinces. People are more pliable than you think. In times of chaos, they look for strength. We can solidify the emperor's power by inspiring confidence, not just within the court but out among the people." The room tensed, the notion clashing fiercely with the current of skepticism. Each noble present rooted himself deeper in the traditional hierarchies they so cherished. Yet, behind the skepticism, I sensed something, a glimmer of reluctant interest amongst the younger officers, those willing to listen beyond the bounds of decorum. "Foolishness!" Jiang yelled, dismissing my vision with a wave of his hand. "Women belong in the background, playing witless games while men pave the way for strength. We are not swayed by the opinions of the masses." The flood of hatred swelled within me as I fought against the urge to turn my back on this assembly, this battleground of egos. "You're wrong," I said, meeting Jiang's scornful eyes with defiance. "True strength lies in the courage to listen and change." A sudden silence filled the hall as my words resounded through the air, echoing off the ornate walls. Was there a flicker of acknowledgement in the younger members of the council? Or was it merely an illusion, a fleeting grace lost within the oppressive atmosphere? Just then, chaos erupted as the doors burst open again. An elder councilman rushed in, his face pale and agitated. "Urgent news!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere like a knife. "What now?" Jiang spat, irritation rippling from his posture. "There are rumors, whispers of a coup. Treason is brewing, and it's said that certain members of our council are involved. If the emperor falls," his voice quaked with the weight of the revelation. The energy shifted, fear rippled through the assembly like a wave crashing over sandcastles. That I felt a dizzying rush at the realization that the threat was all around us, far more imminent than I had anticipated. Where was hope among the rising tide of betrayal? In that moment, a flicker of resolve ignited once more within me. "I will expose this coup," I declared, my heart thrumming against the reality of my words. "There can be no peace unless we root out the traitors among us." A low murmur followed my proclamation, punctuated by incredulity. Yet, there came that spark again, the small, flickering matches of hope igniting in a dark room. It wasn't enough, though. Hope flickered in the darkness, but I would need more than mere whispers to survive the storm ahead. Just then, a shadow crossed my vision, something tugging at the corner of my heart. A face among the crowd, familiar yet unseen, was quietly observing amid the chaos. Recognition struck me like a thunderbolt. Yuan? My heart raced as the realization dawned. The one man who could add weight to my cause was no longer keeping silence, but the moment dissolved as quickly as it appeared, and as the weight of uncertainty bore down upon me, I grasped that the chessboard had shifted yet again, and the game would require every ounce of cunning I possessed. The stakes had never been higher, and as I faced the council, my determination hardened. I would either rise to power or sink in the depths of betrayal. There was no turning back now. The pieces were set, and destiny was only beginning to unfurl its dramatic arc. The murmurs in the great hall simmered and swirled like a heavy mist, dampening the spark I had ignited. I held my breath, marshalling the courage I would need to confront the inertia that weighed down the nobles around me. Yuan's presence shifted the dynamics, and yet, he stayed invisible in the sea of silk and gold. The air felt charged, alive with potential and fear. Enough of this irrational talk, shouted Minister Jiang, his voice a thunderclap against the walls adorned with grandeur. You would risk everything on the whims of a cupbearer? His laughter cut sharp, but it wasn't just mockery, it was a warning. Risk? I echoed, stepping forward, my heart racing. What is left to risk when our very foundation trembles? Would you deny us the chance to confront treason to protect your precious pride? The room fell silent, the air thick with the weight of my challenge that I was acutely aware of. The eyes on me, some glowed with disdain while others sparked with faint interest. Each second felt like a millennia as I clung to the threads of my resolve. Amid the primal fear of betrayal and loss, perhaps the Emperor's illness could somehow morph into a catalyst, an opportunity disguised in darkness. That a low voice broke through the silence. It was a young officer named Lien, who I had often seen lingering at the back of the assembly. His youthful face held a mix of confusion and determination. If there are traitors among us, we need to ensure the Emperor's safety first, he stated, daring to challenge the council's somber age. We must unite, not bicker over power. Zhang's face darkened, his fury no longer veiled. And let this concubine at us? He sneered, waving dismissively at Lien. What nonsense is this? But Lien pressed on, emboldened by something deeper than mere rebellion. If we continue to bicker and ignore the danger at hand, all of us will lose everything. The tension crackled, and for a moment, Jiang faltered, caught in the heat of Lien's youthful fervor. As I locked eyes with Lien, I recognized the singular truth that had eluded me in my struggle. Even the smallest flicker of courage could spark a fire capable of igniting a revolution. But would it be enough? Suddenly, the fear cloaked in whispers erupted anew as the elder councilman shuddered. If treason truly brews among us, we are vulnerable. His haunted gaze swept across his peers. A tremor ran through the crowd, and even Jiang seemed momentarily daunted, his bravado crumbling. Now was my chance. Minister Jiang, I began, my voice strong yet carefully measured, what if I could uncover those loyal to our emperor? Give me the resources, and I will expose every shadow lurking in our midst. We need to ensure the loyalty of the capital before moving to the provinces. His eyes narrowed, evaluating me with skepticism but too aware of the battlefield unfolding before him. And what guarantee do we have that you are not part of this treachery? After all, as a concubine, you stand more to gain from discord. Every heart seemed to pause, every breath held as I fought to keep my composure against the tide of doubt. I risk myself with this proposition. I ask for nothing in return but the hope of peace and a chance to protect the emperor and his legacy. It wasn't a promise of power, nor protection for myself, but rather the glint of aspiration for a realm free from fear. Would they see it? Another voice emerged from the back of the hall, gentle yet assertive. My lady, it was Yuan, breaking free from his corner, his eyes ablaze with a resolve that matched my own. If anyone can finish what our fractious council has begun, it is her. She understands the pulse of our people. Every head turned towards him, the atmosphere shifting with the collective awareness of the gravity of his words. I felt relief surge through me, a brief moment where solidarity flickered amidst the swirling shadows. I will find the traitors, I vowed, my heart pounding. But I will need support from those who still believe in a united empire. I will need you all. Jiang moved to interrupt, but it was Yuan's unwavering gaze that held him in place. You want her power, but what she offers is far greater a chance at unity. I fight by her side. The sound of his declaration rippled through the assembly like a breath drawn from submerged depths. Hope stirred, and momentum began to build in the wake of fear. Yet, just as the tide rose, the heavy doors of the hall swung open once more, revealing a cloaked figure. Whispers of concern skirted through the crowd, and I felt dread creep back into my bones. The figure stepped forward, and I recognized him instantly. It was Chen, the advisor known for his uncanny wit and strategic mind. But he walked with a gait I had never seen before, one drenched in urgency, his face pale and shadowed. "Forgive my intrusion," he said, his voice trembling with urgency. "I bring news that changes everything." A collective intake of breath could be felt throughout the room, a silence more profound than any before. I could only tremble at the possibilities hanging in the air, knowing that whatever news he bore could turn the axis of our precarious situation. "Just moments ago," he continued, choking slightly on his words, "an assassination attempt was made on the Emperor. He is gravely wounded, and the traitors have already struck." My heart plummeted, a chilling wave of terror crashing over me. In that instant, the stakes soared beyond mere politics. This was life and death. The council was not merely debating our future, we were racing against time itself. Would I gather enough strength to face the encroaching darkness, or would I be consumed by it? The sound of my heartbeat was loud in my ears as I stood at the precipice of fate. The storm was closing in, and the darkness was ready to consume us all. The air in the hall felt heavier than before, laden with an anxiety that gnawed at my insides like a ravenous beast. Chen's words sank deep into my consciousness, tainting every fleeting hope I had dared to cling to. They have come for him, I thought, my heart pounding in sync with the uncertainty swirling around us. Minister Zhang's face twisted into a grimace, the bravado of a moment before dissolving into something more sinister. Sensing the shift in the atmosphere, I took a step forward, my voice trembling but resolute. "If traitors dared strike at the heart of our empire, we must act swiftly. You have no authority to decide such matters." Jiang spat, desperation cloaked in his anger. Yet the faintest tremor in his hands betrayed the doubt gnawing at him, but it was Feng, a lesser-known elder, who rose softly from his chair. His demeanor was frail, but his eyes held a fire I recognized all too well. "Let us at least hear what Chen knows. We may need to strike before they strike again." An unseen bond began to weave among us, a thin thread of unity despite the murky depths of our fears. With a careful nod of acknowledgement to Feng, I turned back to Chen, his brows slicked with worry. "Tell us everything," I urged, trying to maintain the composure that felt so precarious. Chen swallowed hard before he spoke again, voice riddled with unease. "The message I received indicated a faction among the council has been stirring discontent, their leader veiled in shadows, biding time until the Emperor's vulnerability was at its peak." Each word from Chen struck me like daggers, hot and piercing. "A faction? But who?" I pressed, the anguish clawing at my throat. "Who would betray their own emperor?" "Names were not given, only the intent to instigate chaos," he replied, eyes darting about as though every shadow bore a hidden threat. "But I have information on the gathering. Under the cover of darkness, certain nobles are conspiring to claim authority, and what is your proposal?" Jiang scowled, looking for a way to regain control. Chen inhaled, long and shaky. "We must leak this information, perform our own counterstrike. We may still have allies among the guards, and if we can infiltrate their meeting, we can extract vital evidence to save our emperor." Yuan, still resolutely by my side, stepped forward, his voice simmering with fire. "Count me in. Together, we can ensure loyalty among those remaining on our side." Relief washed over me for an instant. Yuan's dedication felt like a soothing balm amid the chaos. Yet I could not ignore the nagging sensation that housing alliances in this tempestuous sea was fraught with peril. "But we cannot act with half measures," I countered, urgency lacing my words. "We need to galvanize loyalists, those who still believe in the fabric of our empire, before the inevitable betrayal ignites." As we spoke, a flicker of light caught my eye, and I turned to see the eyes of some of the younger officers, including Lian, filled with a strange mixture of determination and disbelief. It stirred something inside me, an ember igniting hope amid the gathering storm. That I pledged to protect our emperor. Lian took a stand, gaze steady. "Not just for myself but for the future of our empire. If it means risking everything, I will not turn my back." The room stirred with murmurs of agreement, voices coalescing around a singular desire, to rise above treachery and safeguard what remained of our legacy. For the first time, I felt embers gathering together, each soul igniting a single force born out of fear, hope, and an unwavering belief in the power of unity. But as I basked momentarily in the glow of this newfound conviction, I was abruptly reminded of the abyss waiting to consume us whole. "Then we move quickly," I declared, casting a glance over my gathered allies, determination edging the corners of my lips. We will convene in secret and flush out the traitors before their poisonous plot solidifies. But we must act with care. Wrathful eyes are watching. Just then, a scuffle echoed outside the great hall, and our momentary reprieve shattered like glass. I felt a chill trace my spine and instinctively took a step toward the door, yearning to discern what danger might lurk just beyond our view, but as the heavy doors swung open yet again, this time a messenger stood frozen in his tracks, breathless and wide-eyed. My heart stuttered as he collected himself enough to speak, the weight of his words threatening to topple us all once more. "Lady, I must speak with urgency," he panted, his message illuminating fear like lightning. "The Emperor's fate may already be sealed. He has named the traitor before he fell unconscious." The grim trajectory of his revelation tied a noose around my throat. My heart raced, and everything felt distorted in an instant. I glanced at Yuan, who stood beside me, fervor replaced by an unsettling shadow of apprehension. "Who is it?" I choked out, dreading the answer, my world narrowing down to that one question hanging heavily in the air. The messenger met my gaze, trembling as he uttered the name, one that would shatter my world and test the very fabric of loyalty and trust that had begun to hold us together. "Minister Jiang," he revealed with a tremor, darting glances around the room as if unearthing a death sentence. The revelation hit like a thunderous clap, echoing in the silence, shattering any lingering hope, leaving not just my heart, but the future of the Empire hanging by a thread. Now, the true war had begun, not just against the traitors, but against one of our own. How would I navigate this treacherous landscape when the enemy resided so close, lurking behind the very face I had once sought for salvation? As the name hung in the air, a stillness enveloped the hall, heavy like a shroud. My mind raced, struggling to process the magnitude of what the messenger had just revealed. Jiang? The same man whose words had echoed authority and clarity only moments before? The shock wreaked havoc on my thoughts, the very fabric of my reality unraveling. I turned slowly, meeting his eyes, and found them stormy, flickering with uncertainty. How could it be? I stammered, a cold chill creeping along the back of my neck. The pieces of our fragile alliance threatened to splinter apart. "You cannot enough." Jiang's voice cut through the stunned silence like steel. "This is a grand deception meant to drive a wedge between us. You think your fragile bonds of camaraderie can withstand such lies?" Feng interjected, his voice trembling but firm. "No matter how deep the shadows, truth finds its way to light. We must investigate, not just stand idly by, casting accusations. Doubt and loyalty waged war within me, each faction pulling me in opposite directions. Could Jiang truly be a traitor? What if he wasn't? The implication that I could be wrong about a man who had been a trusted advisor was a bitter pill to swallow. Yet the messenger's words twisted like a dagger in the heart of our solidarity. "That we have no time for infighting," I said, mustering what strength I had left. "Jiang may be our only path towards understanding the true scope of this betrayal. There are those who will act before we can, seeking to extinguish the light we've just reignited." The tension was palpable as Jiang glared at me, but there was a flicker of desperation in his eyes, battling against a mighty tide of anger. "Why should I trust you now? You think I'd conspire against the very empire I serve?" "Because," I replied softly, stepping closer, "if this is true, trust may be our only weapon. And if it's a falsehood, your clarity will be essential for bringing those guilty of this scheme to justice." As I held his gaze, I sensed the tension in the room, a fine balance pivoting on the edge of trust. Slowly, the other elders nodded, the realization of the gravity settling deep into their bones. "Fine," Jiang spat, but I detected the hint of acceptance beneath his gruff facade. "But know this, I will not be a scapegoat in this game. If you wish to find the truth, we must work together." The notion of unity felt flimsy, yet it was all we had. "Then let us act at once," I urged. "We will investigate the Emperor's condition and uncover where the shadows are lurking and manipulating." The mention of the Emperor rekindled urgency. I felt a wave of determination renew my spirit, despite the growing doubts that festered deep inside. We turned to leave the hall, every step felt crucial, caught between the flickering flame of hope and the encroaching darkness. As we navigated the quiet corridors, I found myself next to Lien, whose earnest eyes seared into mine with an unwavering loyalty. "Are you all right?" he whispered. His concern radiated warmth amidst the overwhelming chill that surrounded us. "I am trying to hold it together," I admitted, my voice trembling. "Everything feels so uncertain. What if Jiang is truly the traitor? What if this was all orchestrated to bring us down?" Lien paused, reaching out to give my arm a reassuring squeeze. "We cannot lose hope. Even in darkness, small flames linger. We will find a way, but we will do it together." His encouraging words clung to my heart, igniting a flicker of defiance that dared to push back against the tide of despair. As we approached the Emperor's chambers, a surge of apprehension washed over me. I took a moment to gather myself before turning the knob, uncertain of what we might find inside. The messenger had warned of danger, and I couldn't shake the fear that waited just beyond the door. Before I could muster the courage to enter, a sudden clamor erupted from within, a deep, echoing cry that felt both haunting and desperate. My chest constricted, and without thought, I flung the door open, revealing a scene that sent shockwaves through my veins. There, on the lavish bedding strewn with jade silks, lay the Emperor, thrashing restlessly as a figure hovered ominously over him. It was a woman, her hair cascading in dark waves that glinted in the candlelight, a silken robe flowing around her like shadows. The sight of her sent a surge of adrenaline through my body. "Stop!" I shouted, stepping into the room, Lien close behind me. She turned, a wild glimmer in her eyes, a dangerous mix of power and madness illuminating her features. "You were not meant to see this," she hissed, as the Emperor's eyes flickered open for a brief moment, pain etched across his face. "Who are you?" I gasped, a chill racking my spine. "Someone who can reshape this empire, if only given the chance," she replied, the raw ambition spilling from her lips like poison. "Perhaps I can offer you a choice. Join me." At the dawn of a new era, my heart quickened, and the walls of loyalty I had tried to erect began to tremble. Was this the traitor pulling strings from the shadows, or merely another pawn in Jiang's tangled web? Either way, the reckoning was drawing near, and it promised to forever alter not only my fate but the destiny of the entire empire. The piercing intensity of her gaze left me momentarily paralyzed, as uncertainty twisted in my gut. "Join you?" I echoed, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "Are you the architect of this chaos?" The whispers of betrayal that threatened to consume us, a sly smile curled on her lips, seemingly unfazed by the weight of my accusation. "Chaos is but a tool, dear child. The true power lies in who wields it. The Emperor is weak, and with him, this empire will collapse. But I can provide strength, no revolution." She stepped closer, shadows dancing in the candlelight, her presence both alluring and terrifying. "We could reshape history together." Lien moved protectively in front of me, his face a mask of resolve. "Your vision only leads to destruction. We've seen what happens when ambition overshadows loyalty." The woman's laugh, low and haunting, echoed off the marble walls like a forbidden serenade. "You speak of loyalty in a time where it has proven itself to be a mere illusion. Do not mistake my ambition for treachery. The empire is ripe for change. What will you choose? Stand with a dying leader, or rise beside me and carve your names into the annals of time? Why should we trust you?" I shot back, attempting to mask my growing fear with bravado. "Why trust Jiang?" she retorted, her words a dagger that perfectly found the chink in my armor. My heart thudded harder against my ribs. "Do you truly believe those surrounding the throne are the protectors of this realm? Or could they be the very vipers you fear?" The room felt smaller, suffocatingly thick with tension. The Emperor groaned, thrashing beneath his silks, and I felt an urgent pull towards him. What if his condition was indeed tied to her? What if she was the key to understanding the darkness enveloping him? I took a step forward, heart racing. "What have you done to him?" "Nothing yet," she replied with an unsettling calm, observing me with her raven dark eyes. "His pain is a consequence of his failure to bend to change. I offer liberation, not enslavement." I looked at Lien, his expression grave, and I sensed our thoughts converging, the flicker of hope battling against the shadowy treachery lurking in this woman's proposition. "We need to know what's truly happening here," I whispered, my voice barely carrying over the chaos. But standing against her might mean losing everything. Suddenly, a cacophony outside the chamber broke through the tension, echoing like thunderclaps in a storm. My heart raced as the sound of clanging metal and shouts of alarm filled the air, signaling the arrival of guards. A skirmish roared at the entrance to the Emperor's chambers, and the wait of seconds felt like hours. Time is not on our side, the woman urged, her voice edged with urgency. She took another step closer, and I could feel the power emanating from her, intoxicating and terrifying. Join me, and we can save him together. Perhaps even save the Empire, but the tug-of-war within me only escalated. I craved the truth but feared the consequences of embracing this woman's dark ambitions. If you're truly powerful, then show us you can heal him. Prove that your intentions align more with the Empire's needs than your own. She regarded me for a long moment before breaking into a knowing grin. Oh, naive child. Power is not easily given, it demands sacrifice. But I can promise you this, if you align with me, you will see the dawn you've only dreamed of. The Emperor's groans intensified, punctuating the heavy silence like a ticking clock counting down to inevitable fate. Just then, Jiang burst through the doorway, flanked by guards. His eyes widened in disbelief as he surveyed the scene, Lien, the Emperor thrashing in agony, and the woman whose very presence seemed to warp reality around her. What have you done? Jiang demanded, voice trembling with fury and disbelief. I'm offering her a choice, Jiang, I shouted over the rising storm, desperately trying to clarify. One we need to consider as our reality crumbles. His expression twisted, caught between anger for me and an overwhelming need to protect what little unity we had left. Not to her. She is enough. The woman hissed, raising her arms. The whispers are only the beginning. The real question is whether loyalty to a frail monarch is worth more than embracing the power of change. As she spoke, I felt the ground beneath me shift, and a chill swept through the room as shadows coalesced around her like a cloak. Jiang's eyes narrowed dangerously. You will not manipulate her, nor will you touch the Emperor again, but as the guards erupted into the chamber, weapons drawn, the woman laughed at an echoing sound that reverberated with an otherworldly intensity. Do you truly believe the guards can stop what is already in motion? With a sudden flick of her hand, the light dimmed as shadows leapt into the form of tendrils, wrapping around the guards as they staggered back in terror, bewildered. I felt my heart seize in a cold grip as I realized that chaos and darkness were taking root, shaped by the manipulations of shadows. In that moment, everything I'd fought for teetered on the edge. The future of the Empire, my friendship with Jiang, Lien's unwavering loyalty, all held by a fragile thread. And an impossible choice loomed ahead: embrace a dark alliance or risk everything to protect a crumbling legacy. Choose wisely, the woman whispered, and the world around us began to unravel, leaving me in a dizzying whirl of fear and desperation. All lines blurred, but one thing remained certain: this was just the beginning of a battle that would carve the destiny of us all, and betrayal lay just beneath the surface, waiting to be unveiled. The shadows danced along the walls, flickering with an ominous life of their own, twisting the very fabric of reality before my eyes. Jiang stood at the threshold, his hands balled into fists, ready to fight the darkness that seemed determined to engulf us. But my gaze was drawn back to the Emperor, thrashing in his bed, a distant echo of the man who had once commanded respect and loyalty. My heart ached for the past and the weight of the choices before me. Adrian. Jiang's voice cut through the tension, sharp as a blade. We can't let her manipulate us. We need to get the Emperor to safety, regroup, and come up with an actual plan. No. I shouted back, panic breaking through the walls of my resolve. What if her power could save him? What if it could also save us? We can't dismiss her without considering the risks. The woman chuckled softly, almost endearingly, as if she found amusement in our struggle. There's a thin veil between chaos and clarity, dear child. She took another menacing step forward, fingers splayed wide with a grace that was deeply unsettling. But you must act quickly. Time waits for no one, especially not for a king who hangs by a thread. I glanced at Lien, who met my gaze with a mixture of concern and determination. He was always the rational one, the anchor in the tumultuous sea of my emotions. If we trust her and she betrays us, he murmured, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of conflict brewing outside, we risk losing everything: our lives, our freedom, our humanity. The clash of steel and desperate shouts continued escalating beyond the chamber walls, and I could feel the air thickening with impending doom. Jiang's eyes were wild, his breath coming in quick bursts. We can't fail the Empire now, not when we stand on the brink of change. Well, find another way, but doubt not at me. What if Jiang's way was no longer viable? The weight of the Emperor's life hung heavy in the air, and I felt trapped between loyalty to my friends and the desperate hope that this woman was offering something truly transformative. Listen to your heart, Adrian, the woman crooned, her voice a velvet lullaby laced with enchantment. Join me. Not just for the Emperor, but for a future unshackled by the chains of the past. Together we can topple the weak and elevate the worthy. You think your strength is the solution? Jiang countered, stepping forward to shield me. Your power comes from fear and darkness. We can build a future without it, one that honors our past instead of destroying it. Honor? The woman laughed, the sound echoing as if it were a chimera of mockery. What does honor mean to a dying king? Does it give him strength? Does it shield him from betrayal? I do not offer a path back to the old ways, I offer freedom from them. Embrace the chaos, Adrian, and you will find your purpose. As much as I wanted to dismiss her words, a sliver of her truth wormed its way into my heart. I turned back to the Emperor once more, studying his ashen face. This man who had wielded power with an iron grip and yet failed to see the cracks forming beneath him. Beneath this torment lay a greatness that perhaps was worthy to be salvaged, but only if I chose wisely. Just then, a scream pierced through the chaos outside, chilling my blood. I turned towards the door. Panic surged through my veins, and for the first time, the gravity of our situation struck me. We weren't merely fighting for the Emperor, we were fighting for our lives. I could sense that every moment of indecision was leading us deeper into darkness. Adrian. Jiang's voice called out, urgency thick in the air. What are you going to do? I felt the world around us tremble as the shadows, thick and unyielding, coiled tighter in response to my hesitation. The woman's eyes shone, her smile a deep chasm veiling insidious depths. The choice is yours to make, my dear. And then, as if the universe conspired against us, the Emperor let out a horrible, guttural wail echoing through the chambers, sending shards of ice through my spine. It was a sound of agony and despair, and it seemed to awaken something dormant within me, a fierce determination that erupted like wildfire. Before I could think, I stepped toward the woman, my heart hammering in my chest. Show us the power you wield if you claim to be so capable. Heal him. The words slipped from my lips with a conviction I didn't fully understand. A heartbeat hung suspended in the ensuing silence, all eyes drawn to her. Her smile widened, a glimmer of triumph dancing in her gaze. Very well, dear child. But remember, once you unlock the door to my power, you may find it impossible to close again. Clenching my fists against the fear taking root, I braced myself for what was to come. Shadows surged around her, a swirling tempest that beckoned for my submission. Yet, in that intense moment, I clung to something deeper, a flicker of hope that perhaps defiance could illuminate an unseen path. With a wave of her hand, the shadows writhed and twisted, forming an intricate pattern above the Emperor's suffering form. I felt a shudder. The sensation of possibility was both terrifying and alluring. Together, in that fractured moment of time, we teetered on the brink of destiny, the weight of our choices threatening to bury us. But there, amidst the chaos, there was a momentary flicker of light, a whisper of hope that ignited a fire within me. I would not let fear control me, no matter what lay ahead, would forge my own fate. Just then, an explosive crash resonated from the doorway, and a figure burst through, breathless and wild-eyed, an unexpected ally whose presence sent adrenaline coursing through my veins. But as I recognized who it was, a jolt of dread seized my heart. Adrian. It's worse than we thought. They're coming for us. The shadows trembled in echo of my spiraling fear as I stood at the precipice of unknown terror, a choice hanging in the balance that could change everything. And in that moment of revelation, I understood one undeniable truth: this battle was not just against the darkness of the Empire but against the very darkness within myself. The air was thick with tension, suffocated by the smell of burning incense mingling with the acrid tang of fear. My heart raced as the figure silhouetted in the doorway was revealed. Rin, my younger sister, her face streaked with dirt and terror. She had always been the innocent one, shielded from the harsh truths of the world, and now here she was, dragged into the storm we had ignited. Rin. What are you doing here? I gasped, grasping her shoulders, my mind a chaotic maze of worry. You should be safe in the gardens. She shook her head, defiance etched across her features. I couldn't stand by while the empire fell apart. They're coming for you, Adrian. The council has been infiltrated. They don't just want the emperor, they want you too. Her voice trembled, but her eyes burned with determination. Who? Jiang's voice cut through, a layer of urgency hardening his tone. Who's coming? There's a faction forming those who want to seize power for themselves. They believe with the emperor incapacitated, they can control everything. Rin's words tumbled out in a rush, each syllable tightening the vice around my heart. The woman remained cloaked in her shadows, seemingly unfazed by the chaos that unfurled around her. Instead, she leaned closer to the emperor, her eyes consuming his frail form, lusting for a taste of the power that could be restored. Ah, sweet child, she cooed, they all want to dance on the ashes of what was once great. But tell Mado you truly wish to follow your sister into their chaos? Or will you take my hand and change the course of destiny? Frustration bubbled within me. You think your power can heal the empire? Turn a blinded soul into a giant once more? You're nothing but a parasite, feeding on our fears. Or a deliverer, dear. You bear the scars of destiny already, she countered, her smile poised between threat and enticement. This game will not end without sacrifice. I offer you a path drenched in blood, yours or theirs. Rin took a step back, visibly shaken, but her resolve did not falter. We have to stop her, Adrian. She's manipulating you. The shadows around the woman flared and darkened, pulsating with malevolence. Foolish girl, she hissed, the air around her crackling with energy. You think you can simply dismiss the power I wield? It is your life's ambition to play the queen in a game you do not comprehend. Rin's defiance ignited something deep within me, a sense of responsibility I had long neglected. Then tell me, I called to the woman, steadying my voice, how can I save the emperor, my people, and keep my sister safe from your grip? But deep down, the whispers of temptation tugged at me. Here was a chance to harness power and reclaim a semblance of control in a world that had spiraled into madness. What do you say, dear child? Her voice dripped syrupy sweetness, warping my resolve. Will you throw caution to the winds and embrace your destiny, Adrian? Rin's voice, desperate and pleading, sliced clean through the woman's allure. Don't let her get to you. With each passing second, the weight of the moment pressed down on me, blurring the lines of loyalty and desire. We can find another way. We can unite the factions, gain support from the nobility. We won't let this darkness consume us. I found my voice rising, desperate to drown out the darkness that loomed ever closer, but shaking her head, the woman stepped toward the emperor, her hand woven with shadows. You misunderstand me, dear heart. This is not darkness, this is liberation. Only through me can you grasp the power you've always sought. It was as if the shadows themselves pulsed at my feet, whispering promises of untold power and dominion. But beneath that seductive allure, I could feel Rin's fear, a tether anchoring me back to the core of who I really was. Then, amid the fierce battle of hearts and minds, a shattering revelation struck me. Rin! I exclaimed, eyeing the door through which she had come, the guards know you're here. If they find you, they'll use you against me. She blinked, a mixture of realization and fear flaring in her eyes. I'm not afraid. She nearly shouted back. You're the one they want. I can distract them. No. I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. You need to get out of here, Rin. I cannot lose you too. But just then, chaos erupted outside the chamber, the thunderous crashes of breaking wood, the yells of pursuing guards. Panic surged through me as shadows swirled, eager to engulf the room and amplify the cacophony around us. The woman laughed softly. The time for decisions has come. Destined child, will you stand with me, or cling to the chains of your humanity? Together. I shouted, looking desperately at Jiang and Lian, we stand together. Well, fight, but before I could finish, a loud crashing sound broke through the air, and the door burst open. Armed figures swarmed in, their intentions clear and malicious. The shadows roared in response, churning ferociously around the woman and enhancing her aura like a dark solar eclipse. Get ready. Jiang shouted, positioning himself protectively in front of Rin and me. Hope spiraled into a dizzying descent, teetering on the edge of despair. In the midst of chaos, I felt my heart fracture. A choice had to be made, a destiny awaited, and time was no longer on my side. I stood at that ledge, teetering dangerously on the brink, while my sister circled closer to danger. The shadows tangled around us all, a tempest of despair and choice. I closed my eyes for a moment, grasping for faith amid the fracturing darkness. But as a hand reached for mine, wild and desperate, it wasn't the woman's, nor any of my fighters. It was my sister, her fingers interlocking with mine, her gaze pleading for clarity, her heart echoing the question I feared to voice. Adrian. What do we do? And in that unyielding moment of horror, I felt the full weight of my choices crashing down like a tempest. My heart was a battleground, torn between the chaos surging in the room and the deep-rooted desire to protect those I loved. Rin's hand grasped mine firmly, grounding me, reminding me of the innocence I was fighting for. I could feel the weight of the moment, the suffocating pressure that demanded a choice, not just for myself, but for the very fate of those I held dear. The guards poured in, their eyes wild with fear, weapons raised, and it seemed we stood at the edge of a precipice. The woman, cloaked in shadows that twisted like living ink, smiled knowingly, stirring a storm within me. You are at a crossroads, dear Adrian, she taunted, her voice a sultry melody dripping with malice. Imagine the power you could claim if you harness what lies beneath. Why fight for a crumbling legacy when you could forge a new one? But even as the allure of her words wrapped around my senses, I felt an undeniable tug from Rin. She tugged at my spirit, reminding me of the hope we could build together, not on the ashes of our past, but with the flames of resilience that burned in our hearts. Adrian. Her voice broke through the seductive web weaved by the woman. I believe in you. We can still fight together, use what we have, and change this without succumbing to darkness. In a breath-dampened moment, clarity surged through me, igniting a flame long buried under layers of fear and despair. You're right, Rin. My voice emerged steady, resonating with newfound strength as I took a step forward, confronting the woman. I will not yield to your darkness. We will rise as we are together without the chains of fear or treachery. My words echoed in defiance, almost invigorating me against the shadows gnawing at my resolve. Yuan and Lian rallied behind me, faces taut with determination. We stand united. Yuan shouted, echoing the sentiment that pulsed through our collective hearts. This empire is built on the legacy of loyalty, honor, and hope, and we refuse to let darkness claim it. The woman's eyes flared with fury, shadows twisting around her in response to our declaration. Foolish children, she hissed, the room vibrating with her rage. You cannot hope to fight back against the tide of fate. But if you wish to court destruction, then I will give it to you in full bloom. Without hesitation, she lashed out, shadows twisting dangerously toward us like tendrils of smoke, seeking to ensnare and bind us to her will. The cacophony of battle erupted around us. Guards clashed with desperation, their metallic cries punctuating the air, echoes of our fate weaving a tapestry fraught with uncertainty. Instinctively, I pulled Rin closer, powering through the dark wave that threatened to sweep us away. Keep moving. I shouted toward my friends, forging a path amidst the chaos swirling within the chamber. The Emperor needs us, we cannot fail him or ourselves. Just then, a fierce blow landed, knocking the wind from my lungs and sending me sprawling backward. My grip on Rin faltered, and terrors gripped my heart as I sprang back up, adrenaline coursing through my veins. But as I looked around, the embers of hope flickering amid the black, something shifted in the air. I caught a glimpse of movement, a flash in the corner of the room. Lian had skirted the chaos, driven by a sense of purpose, and with a swift motion, he lunged toward the shadows swirling around the woman. Your time is done. Light, in a moment of desperation, he ignited a small lantern filled with oil, flinging it towards the invading darkness. The lantern shattered, flames exploding outward, illuminating the chamber in an incandescent glow. I felt the heat wash over me, momentarily dispelling the shadows that confounded us. Time seemed to slow as I watched the fire surging forward, swallowing the dark tendrils, offering a vibrant contrast to the chaos. The flame danced with life, and then in one breathtaking moment hope ignited into a wildfire. Caught off guard, the woman shrieked as the flames consumed the shadow she wielded, her figure shimmering in iridescence for a brief moment before it faded. "You think this changes anything?" she shrieked, as she retreated against the wall, her presence faltering. "This is just the beginning," the guards surrounding us faltered, shifting like confused puppets, caught in the turmoil that had erupted around them. "Now," Yuan bellowed, rallying our momentum forward. "We must act while we have the chance. Protect the Emperor." With renewed vigor, we surged into the Emperor's chambers, my heart pounding fiercely with every step. I found him lying still, the familiar lines on his ashen face revealing traces of the man he once was, a dormant ember barely flickering beneath the weight of despair. His fate rested in our hands, and I reached out, gently guiding my fingers along his brow, anchoring my hopes into the warmth of his pulse. "Open your eyes, my Emperor," I whispered, my heart steadying against the chaos outside. The room felt electric with possibility as we gathered around him, our combined determination igniting a ray of light in the darkness that threatened to swallow him whole. "We are your faith. We will not let you fade." Then, something beautiful happened. As our hands clasped together, our energies intertwining, a surge of warmth enveloped us. A light, flickering like a heartbeat, ignited from the center of our unity. It grew, threading through the room, illuminating every shadow and curling around the cold heart of treachery. Together, we stood as Oni's shield against the encroaching night, and with each pulse of energy, I saw the Emperor begin to stir, the gray haze of unconsciousness ebbing away, replaced with the flicker of life. "Belief sustains," I thought, as tears of relief pricked my eyes. "Faith pushes back against the dark." Rin stepped forward beside me, her eyes wide with hope. "He's waking up," she exclaimed, her voice a gentle reminder of our journey together, standing not as mere shadows, but as bearers of hope, community woven from loss, roots stretching deep into the past, shaping us into something powerful. As consciousness returned to the Emperor, a collective sigh fell over the room, tension intertwined with a new light as we leaned closer, waiting with bated breath, every heartbeat a testament to our reckoning. His eyes fluttered open, confusion and clarity chasing one another within his gaze. What is this?" he croaked, astonished, eyes darting around to the figure of those he had trusted, and then to me. Hope vivid and relentless welled within my heart as I leaned closer. "Your legacy is still alive, my Emperor," I said quietly, my voice steady. "Together, we will fight for the Empire. Together, we will face the darkness." Even amidst uncertainty, a smile ghosted across his lips, empowerment blooming like flowers after the frost as he began to rise. "You've preserved a flicker of light in treachery. Know this, my loyal subjects, this struggle is far from over." And in that moment of eternal promise, a bond held stronger than blood began to weave itself before me, a collision between light and dark, resolutely illuminating the possibilities ahead. As the shadows crept along the corners, a spark ignited, a pulse beneath our skin, unyielding and unwavering, the raw essence of what we had fought for now unraveled and transformed into something beautifully powerful. So, together we rose, a chorus of resilience and heart, stepping into the swathe of uncertainty entwined with resolve, ready to face whatever storms loomed beyond. And as the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting vivid colors across the sky, one truth lingered in my heart: though our journey was fraught with darkness, the light we kindled whispered hopes and fervent dreams would always bid farewell to the shadows and claim its rightful place in a new dawn. For in that moment, we were not simply fragments of our pasts, we were architects of the future, unbowed, unbroken, and ready to forge our destiny in a world where love conquered fear. The final breath echoed within me, affirmation of all we sought was but an ember away, waiting for us to shape it into a flame, and as our voices merged, daring to defy the darkness yet to come, it became clear. In unity, we discovered the truth: we had become the very legacy we claimed to protect, destined to rise from ashes, not just as mere players but as warriors of light.